So who is it that
It was Jim Benedict. It was like...
I responded to you, Paul.
Yeah.
Jim Benedict. My wife is your biological aunt.
Welcome, Jim.
Welcome to an episode of Alberta Roots, a series of storytelling by members of the Alberta Family History Society, whose current roots are in Alberta. Paul knew by age 7 that he was adopted. He didn't look like his mother or father. What were his original roots? As an adult, now married, he wanted answers. The paper trail revealed nothing. DNA was not helping. Who were his biological parents? Then a surprise discovery. The answers were closer than he imagined. Let's meet Paul and explore his family tree mystery.
Well, thanks for joining us. Today is our second episode in Alberta Roots, which is a feature of the Alberta Family History Society. I'm Glenn Davis. I'm going to be the host today. And with me is Paul Elkins, who's here to share his story. But before we do anything, Paul, I just want to thank you for driving 150 kilometers to come here and join us in the studio. Thanks.
Well, thanks. It's a pleasure to come down here, share my story with folks, contribute to the society. It was very interesting just to get to this point, and I found it intriguing that people were interested in my story. So I was like,
well, it sounds like you've had quite a journey. And can you take us back to Ocean Falls from the BC coast and pick us up there?
Okay, sure. Early memories are in Ocean Falls. Like you said, it's on the west coast of BC. It was a thriving pulp and paper mill town from the early 20s all the way through into the 70s. And I was there from my birth, essentially in 1962, in St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. And I think that's part of where my name came from. But my mom was also saying, well, that was famous golfers and other people of the time. So that's where my names come from. I was told that, I was adopted, but that kind of came a little bit later, that understanding where my name came from. And then they took me up to Ocean Falls where they were living. And there's a little bit more that goes behind that. It's like my parents graduated from UBC, and then they went to Montreal, and then they really had this desire to get back to BC, and that Dad was successful in getting into Ocean Falls. But being in Ocean Falls as a successful professional couple, there was a bit of pressure from the Catholic Church for them you don't have kids, where are your kids? All your friends have kids. It's like, so it's like there's this pressure to adopt. You have the ability, you can afford it. So, that was sort of the back pressure, I'm assuming, through the Catholic Church for them to adopt some kids. And in 61, they had started the process, and they had sort of, okay, we're interested in adopting, and they'd gone through the BC Children's Agency there. And, things were like, yeah, okay, we've got your name. We've done some interviews. You seem to be pretty good, but there's nothing on the horizon. And, and then it was like end of July of 62, because they were thinking, okay, well, this is 63, because as everyone remembers back in 62, like looking at the audience, I don't, but they do. That it was like a landline. So you had to call a landline, and they had letters and correspondence that was official and stamped and signed, and it was much more intricate, and it took a lot longer. So anyhow, they had understood probably nothing's on the horizon. Then in late July of 62, it's like, we've got a kid. We need you to be ready. And Dad's like, what? And it's like, okay. So he has a little piece of paper, and he took a whole bunch of notes on it. But essentially, within 2 weeks, they went from no kids to having me. And so it's like a very quick turnaround from this. You're thinking, they've done all the precursor stuff, but then it's like, we need you in Vancouver on August 22nd, and you need to have this, and this, and be prepared to take your child back to Ocean Falls. So now it's like, okay, what do we have in the way of kid stuff? It's like, okay, it's like, it's like if you're pregnant, you have 9 months. And it's like, this is a light switch. It's like, no kid. So there was probably a little bit of stress on everybody's part. And because in Ocean Falls, as you can probably see on the photo, there's mountains, snow, and the ocean. So the way to get into Ocean Falls is through a boat or through a float plane. And that's the only way. There's no road access. You don't get to do anything. So it's a very remote, isolated community. So there was a freighter that would come up, the Northland Prince, a couple times a week. It would just go up and down the coast, and it would just ferry everything in and out. So you had to schedule things with that boat. So it's like, okay, if you have to be someplace on the mainland, well, you have to find a way to do it, whether it's going to be a float plane that's going to take you in there, one of those old Grumman Gooses you hop on and the thing flies off and you hope you make it, or you get this Northland Prince. So anyhow, they made their way down to Vancouver, got all of their information, brought me back to Ocean Falls, and took wonderful care of me. I was another year later, another child came up. They adopted in a photo. You can probably see there's a younger girl. That's my sister Sandra. She got adopted about a year and a half after me. Again, we're still in Ocean Falls. Again, there must have been continued pressure, so they went with three's a charm. So I was like, oh, okay. So they ended up with my other brother John. And while we're in Ocean Falls, like I say, I remember, going to a little fire hall, walking around our house in Ocean Falls, little snippets here and there, recognizing, when you show me a picture, it's like, okay, I know that, but I'm not sure why I know that. So then we went from Ocean Falls, where Mom and Dad were living. Well, actually, you can see from the mountains, it's very steep around there. And what was really bothered my mother at that time, Ocean Falls is lovely, but you have to rain, fog, snow, more rain, overcast skies, because they were running about 200 inches of rain per year type thing. It was a phenomenal amount of rain, precipitation in that area. So after 9 years there, she says, look, you can transfer, but I am leaving, essentially is what she was saying. I'm leaving. You can come with me. So he found a transfer to Campbell River, and we spent 15 years in Campbell River. So when we moved to Campbell River, we had this is part I actually do remember. We rented a small duplex right by the high school. We lived there for about a year and a bit. And then we went off to a brand new house at the end of a street, Murphy Street in Campbell River, and we lived there for 15 years. And it was quite a nice time. So we have my sister Sandra, my brother John, and then in December, Peter shows up. So he's my youngest brother. So, but he wasn't adopted. It completely threw my parents off because they were thinking, okay, no more kids, 3, that's it. Then now it went from, essentially, a family of none to a family of 6. And it's like, so you got 4 kids, and it's like, you can see from the photos, that's me and Sandra in the Campbell River. And then we've got the 4 of us down at the government wharf, and, where we spent a lot of time in the early or the late 60s, popping around in the summer because my dad was interested in trying to find a vacation property, or he was very interested in building stuff. So part of that is, as I'm growing up and I'm going from Ocean Falls to Campbell River, and as I grow up, and about the age of 7 is the time. So I was, been in Campbell River for a couple of years, and it was just this odd thing where we're driving down to the downtown core, and it's like I have this, I was looking at my mom in the car, like going, where am I from? And, I popped out the other one, am I adopted? And she's like, oh, yes. It's like, oh, okay. And she's like, well, why do you ask that? It's like, well, I don't look like you and Dad. So I'm just like, none of us look like you and Dad. And whereas, Peter does. We can see that resemblance, where the other 3 of us were going, no, it's like, no, different looking. Anyhow, so so when I was 7, I learned what I considered to be fairly early on that I had been adopted. And And as there was a baby book, it's like the firstborn kid, you got that massive baby book with, thousands of pictures and the hair snipped out and everything's perfect. It's all meticulous. You get to child fourth and it's like, can you fill this in for me? It's like, so it's like, it's like, your time gets parsed out a lot differently. And anyhow, so there was a lot of detail. And within my baby book, there was a couple of sheets of paper that I had found later on. And that one of them was that document that I had referenced earlier, where my dad had written in some notes, and he's like, "Oh, French Canadian, mom French Canadian, dad Irish, Scottish, both teachers, and like going, okay, and then there's a follow-up sheet from one of the lawyers. His name was Tom Berger, a friend of my dad's growing up. And, he had done all the legal work for doing the name transfer and such. But I didn't know this. So it's like, oh, I see this thing. It's like, oh, there's my name, Paul Elkins and Tom Berger. And it's like, who's this Michael John Fogan? It's like, go back to my mom and dad. It's like, who's this? And what's that name for? It's like, oh, that was your birth name. We renamed you Paul Richard Elkins when we adopted you. So it's like, oh, okay. So now I had another little piece. So I was like, okay, I had that, my birth name, and I had this little piece of paper with little scribbles on it, because Dad's left-handed, and I'll better write with my left hand. So he's doing everything left-handed and, doing these scribbles on the page. So it's enough information to be partially accurate, but not accurate enough to actually do anything on. So it would say, teacher, second year. Okay, second year university or second year graduate. Did they go to UBC or not UBC? It's like, but there's a UBC in there. It's like, so just enough to throw you off, so you can't really find too much. And it was for the longest time, as a little an aside, the BC wouldn't really release a whole lot of information. So, and when I had asked my dad at the time, I was talking to him about adoption and such, and I said, what would be your thoughts, if I decided to go off and search? And there's like, well, your mom's would bother her a lot, because she's raised me, she's taken care of me. Me going off and looking, would be saying that she's not good enough, and she would be like, okay, I can understand that perspective. So I just sort of put that on the back burner. I figured, well, by the time I'm 18 or 20, so I was like, well, maybe things will change. So it's like, okay, we'll let this thing ride. So, time progresses from the time I'm 7 to 18. You graduate, you go off to university, and you don't do the short university thing. You do this way too long, and then you, it's like, oh, okay, now I'm finished university, and now I'm poor. So it's like, okay, I don't have any money to go off and look. And it was very shortly after I graduated university, I met my wife, Patty, or soon-to-be wife, Patty, in eastern BC. So we got married in 93. And again, now you're looking at, okay, so I'm 30, 31. So it's like, okay, now my focus is not necessarily on me. It's about, starting my family. So we have our first son, and then we have our first daughter, second daughter, and second son. So we got our four kids that is going to be taking up all of our time, and my processes and desires to go off and research myself sort of waned at that point, because the focus is on getting them to soccer, doing the school stuff, carrying through with all these different activities that we have, and all the different work events that I was dealing with. So all of this sort of goes carries me through the 90s to some degree. But there's also at that point, it's like I've got a bit more curiosity. It's like, well, what can I do? Because I don't have a lot of money, because we've got a family of 6, and it's like, well, I don't have a lot of spare money to go off looking. So I found some websites, and okay, let's fire this one off and just see if something pops up. Hoping that that somebody will see it and recognize that name, and maybe my birth mom would know. Oh yes, that's my son. I want to reach out and talk to him. But again, you don't know what's going to happen. So it's like I only did that very briefly, and then my sister at that point also she went off and did it far more detailed. And, she actually went off and was successful. So she was able to locate her mom and dad, her birth parents, and they were both in Calgary. So it worked out for her that she was able to, find the parents. And it's sort of like, okay, so maybe there is some hope for me. It's like, not a hopeless case, but it's like, maybe I can go and find something going on. And so with that in mind, it's sort of like, okay, I've got this mental thought, but at the same time, I'm also thinking, am I in a safe spot? She's been successful, and Patty, she's got a friend, and he had gone off looking for his birth parents, and they found the father, but it's like absolutely want nothing to do with it. So rejection on top of rejection. It's like I really don't need that. So it's like, again, I was trying to work myself into this place where it's like, I would like to have the opportunity to introduce myself, but if they don't want to, they don't want to. It's like, but you have to be prepared to, you might find something, but you might not like the answer, but at least you have an answer. You have to be able to withstand whatever answer is out there, not knowing.
Put it in its place.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what you're going to encounter. It's like throwing your name out there going, okay, is it going to stick? Or the people I'm looking for, do they even exist still? Because now I'm thinking, okay, well, they're 80. There's a lot of life. 60, into the 80s is what I was thinking. So it's like, I just don't know. I better start looking before they passed away. And at that end, Patty had said, well, my brother's got 23andMe. So she bought me a 23andMe kit, and swab, spit. Off it goes. I came back. Oh yes, you have 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people on the East Coast. Some on the West Coast, down in Louisiana. It's like, okay, second, third, fourth, fifth cousins. Minimal connections. It's like, okay, so that explains I have a connection to the East Coast somehow. And it's like, so we're thinking about it, 23andMe, and it's like, okay. And I think it was, she said, well, why don't you try another one like Ancestry? So it's like, anyhow, so I bought it in August, and then, done the spit and do the swirl, and off it goes, going, there's $160 down the drain. So it's like, I really didn't have much hope. I figured, well, if 23andMe is not going to pick it up with all these different things, like, why would Ancestry do it? It's like, I was not overly hopeful. So it's like, well, there's a whole bunch of people I don't know out in the world that are marginally related to me. So it's like, great. So this goes out, and I think it was about a month to 2 months, within that range, closer to a month. And I got this email back and said, oh yeah, we've done your DNA test. Oh, by the way, you have some very close hits. Like, what? Okay, so I got these very close hits. They're like, 23, 25%. They're very close. It's like you're either brother or sister, half brother and sister, or your aunt. It's like, okay, they're definitely not in the right age group for half brother or half sister. So it's like, okay, the aunt and uncle, well, who are they? And at least it has the same last name as my birth name. So I knew that there must have been a connection now. So it's like mine was Michael John Fogan. I see Fogan. So it's like I'm feeling much closer. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, okay, tingly type stuff. And it's like, what's my next step? I hadn't really thought this one through. I was like, okay, I didn't expect this. So at that point, it provides an option like, do you want to connect with these people? And go, yes. So I sent one off to the maternal side. The caretaker of the genealogy on the Fogan side, and it's like, hi. It's like, how else do you introduce yourself? It's like, and I shot the email off just to ask for an introduction to, because you can't go straight to the people. You have to go through the caretaker of the family tree. So I sent the email off to Jim, and as you can see, Jim responded.
So who is it that replied?
It was Jim Benedict. It was like,
I responded to you. Oh.
Yeah.
Jim Benedict. My wife is your biological aunt.
Welcome, Jim. And you know Paul quite well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim.
So let's pick it up again, Paul.
Yeah.
You were just saying you sent out the message and this ruffian replied?
Well, I got the email back from Jim, and it started the conversation. It went further, and it's like, I'd let Jim go through his emails, but it was like quite the, what do I do next? It's like, you're like,
uncertainty?
There's a huge uncertainty. It's like, I don't know where this is going. And I can only imagine on their side.
What was going through your mind? Jim, you get this message?
Shock. Absolute shock. So I get an email from Ancestry saying, match has been found and somebody is sending you a message. So I doodle on downstairs to my computer and fire it up, and I have a look. And here's these strange messages coming in from some guy I don't know, a Paul Elkins, looking for some connection on his AncestryDNA. So the information Paul sent through was, and my birth name was Michael John Fogan. Well, that's Joan's family line. The thing is, okay, I know a little bit about family trees. I know a little bit about genealogy. I'm the webmaster for the Alberta Family History Society. I've been doing it for decades. I've researched all of our family lines. There's no Paul or John Michael anywhere. And Joan knows her fact. So I head on upstairs and I said, Joan, I have this message from Ancestry you'd better have a look at. And she's stunned because it identifies Paul here as a nephew or a half-brother or whatever, but definitely as a nephew. And Joan's just shaken because she knows her family. I know her family. In marrying into the family, you really get into the family, the Fogan family. And they live in New Brunswick. So I had to go there to get married to her. That was part of the deal. Just make sure I was legit. They're a fantastic family and so welcoming in for me. So I really enjoyed, learning more about the family. Photographs and documents and census, and we had it nailed. We had it nailed down. The only reason we had Joan do DNA is because we were uncertain on the paternal line going back to her second grandfather. Did he come from Ireland? Did he come from somewhere else? How did he get to New Brunswick? That was a mystery. And then this interloper shows up here and says, wait a minute, I'm here. No, you're not. And Joan is looking at, I've got to talk to my brothers. That's long distance to New Brunswick. But what am I going to tell them? They're not going to be shocked. There was no extra baby in the family. So Joan said, hold off on contacting him. And so that's why there was about a 3-day delay. And Paul was sort of wondering, what did I say? What did I type? Until Joan had a chance to talk to her 2 brothers. Her 2 sisters had passed on at this point in time. Her sister Marie had died. She never married. She always lived in the family house. So we had her nailed. She was supervised 24/7. The other sister, Anna, I never got a chance to meet because she died in a terrible highway accident in Montana. She and her girlfriend were both teachers, and they were going to different teaching locations, and they were on their way to Lethbridge. So that can't be. Anna never married. So this was a real mystery. So yes, we decided to get in touch with Paul. So I sent a message back. Yes, my wife's line is the Fogan name, and I do the genealogy, and yeah, we'd love to get in touch with you. And from that point, Paul saying, oh, good, there is actually somebody out there that wants to talk to me about this. And we thought, but we were thinking, oh, well, where is this guy? Is he from New Brunswick, or maybe Yellowknife, where Anna went to teach, or what have you? We don't know. You were in our backyard all this time.
The difference in distance between Calgary, where you live, and Red Deer is that 150 kilometer that I mentioned at the beginning
An hour and a half
of the
down
interview.
the road, for heaven's sake.
Well, and when you consider that Patty's brother's in Calgary and we come down here on a regular basis, it's like, okay, we probably drove by their house fairly close.
What happened? You have the contact now with Joan and Jim. What came next?
Well, we have the contact, and part of what the ask was at that point was, okay, so I released the DNA back to Jim because I have no idea what the DNA means. It's just 23%. I just know that's a very high number compared to everything I'd had up to that point, which is like 1.5% to 2%. And it's like, okay, 23% means, okay, you're definitely related. That 2%, I was like, oh, okay. But it had all these other features in there. So it's like, okay, Jim, you can do your stuff with the DNA, let you have access to that. But I was also able at that point, I wrote to the BC government and get my actual formal birth certificate, where it actually went through, this is your mom, so it's Anna Cecilia Fogan, and it's got my birth date. There's nothing on the paternal side, and then it's saying, yes, you were born at St. Paul's Hospital. So from that side, it's like, okay, here you go. So definitely the name Anna Cecilia Fogan, say, okay, so now we know. And it's like,
It fell into the box.
I was like, okay, so now where are we going to go with this? So from that, the welcome from their side is like enveloping. We spent, managed to get an arranged phone call between myself and we had a really good phone call. I think it was like 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. We had the two uncles and Joan, my aunt, on the line, and literally we talked and talked and talked and talked. And you can probably tell the family likes to talk a lot. So, and it sort of explained a lot to them and to me as to, where I came from and where I fit into their family. And, from my side, it was really warm and welcoming. At the same time, there's sort of a bittersweet aspect to it. One is we go through the process of, this is who I am, this is who Joan is. But at the same time, not being able to meet Anna was the part that I missed. And I never had that opportunity to meet her. And that's the part that I think I truly do miss. And I know everybody, her family, they've had many years and they've grieved over. It was like, for me, it was a fresh one. So it's like, at this point in my mind, everybody's alive, everybody's happy.
So it's almost like you're experiencing a loss.
I was like, now I've lost a person that I never had a chance to meet. And I was like, it's hard to put it into words, but it's one of those ones where, again, if you're going to do the search, you have to be ready for, you don't know what to expect. You're stepping into the unknown, you're exposing yourself, and hopefully things are going to work out. And for their credit, they've been super supportive, and it's been enjoyable getting to meet them. So after we did our several lengthy phone calls, and then myself and Joan and Jim, we'll include Jim in there because he facilitates everything. And then to recognize that there seems to be a good pattern within the family and how I fit in. So like, and I seem to shop at the same place, as I have similar clothes. Seeing a picture of John, I can see a reflection of myself, not identical, but I can see the family resemblance in there. So it was about a year, maybe a year and a half later, Patty and I were going to Newfoundland for a month. So we said, okay, by the way, Patty, since we're going to the East Coast, we're going to stop in and we're going to visit. And then Joan and Jim also made that arrangements. And they said, you don't mind if we have a little family get together? It's like, no. So it's like...
So you made the journey from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the Atlantic Ocean to join the family.
Oh yeah, it's a couple hour flight. It's easy peasy. So we popped over, landed in Halifax, then drove up to Miramichi. I don't know if I'm supposed to say Miramichi or Newcastle. It's sort of like, Woolerton and Dog River. Went and drove in there, and there's a number of other family relatives I met that came over, and they made and arranged an evening where we could get to meet everybody, all the relatives. And Jim had this big chart, with lines and graphs and pictures, and this is who you're related to. It was awesome. It's up on my wall at home, just where I have my office, so I can reflect, make sure I don't forget where everybody is and the names. And so they all came over again. Very welcoming family, and it's been a huge pleasure going to the family homes. Getting to listen to all of them, and me and Anna, we'd be sitting up here shooting at the whatever's floating by in the river. It's like, oh, really? Seeing the house and where people were. But just to get to a good sense of the family, listening to the stories that they had shared with me, going to visit Anna's burial site up there was moving. And again, just the degree to which they welcomed and were very open with me was far more than I ever expected. So from that side, I feel very blessed and was comfortable in sharing what I found, but I didn't know what I was going to get, because you don't know.
So what advice would you have for somebody who was adopted and is in your early stages of tossing it around in their mind?
In my mind, I had to be in a very stable, comfortable spot and be able to withstand either rejection, because you could get rejected outright. And you had to be ready for and mentally and emotionally stable, so that you don't know what you're going to get. I was blessed. There's no two ways about it. I was super fortunate. At the same time, other people, they had absolute rejection after rejection, and it's compounded their emotional state. It's made it worse. So from that perspective, you really have to be able to weather the storm. And if you're not in that point, you don't know who you're gonna, you've got Joan and Jim and their family and all the Fogan family. It's like, that's a wonderful family to get tied into. What if it's not?
And then it's
what happens if it's you don't know what family you're related to and how what the impact is on my family too.
So the takeaway is to be in a good spot before you begin that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. That's my feeling, is that you had to be very stable. You had to be emotionally able to handle it, mature enough that you're able to deal with it and move forward in whatever direction it takes you, and have enough experience. If you decide that it's critical to know, and it's not what because you build these fantasies and dreams as you're growing up, going, oh, your mom's this and she's the best person, and she just had to do this to, she's trying to protect you, and There's a lot of you build these stories and the narratives up in your head, and then the reality is, okay. In my case, my part is I didn't get to meet her, and that's the tragedy for me, that I never got to know her, never got to meet her. I get to hear about her, but not to meet her, or touch her, or hold her. Or hear her voice, anything like that. So to me, that was. I know it's important to their family, and it's very stressing for them. And I just hope that me coming up didn't bring up waves of grief or anything like that.
One point you mentioned that it was about finding yourself, seeing yourself in the family.
Well, there was I had a really good photo. I still have it hanging around. It's with myself and sitting at a table at his house in Newcastle, and just chatting in that evening. But I see a very strong resemblance.
Interesting your comment about seeing family resemblance, because in the early start of the interview, you mentioned that you had broached it with your mom, just simply saying, I don't look like you and mom and dad. So it's an interesting closure there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's wonderful to hear a story where your journey to find your family has turned out to be so receptive with the Fogans. Thanks, Jim, for joining us at the table.
My pleasure.
Oh,
Thanks for spending the
thanks,
time and sharing your story with
And you'll see a
everyone.
flashing red light there.
It is recording.
Yeah, this is your zoom to the right to zoom in
Yeah,
on them.
Yeah.
And the way they go, ripping off the map.
yeah.
So, okay, now we got the blooper. Okay.
We'll follow ahead.
It's dark over here.
Well, let me see what we
We
can
have
do.
lights you can turn on.
So this is the one here that I found. It's like, so it's like you have this small section in BC. If you got this.
A production by the Alberta Family History Society. If you would like to share your family story, visit our website and consider becoming a member. If you want to know of upcoming monthly episodes, just click on the subscribe button below.